She thought he was just a broke backpacker. Then a helicopter landed and changed everything. Before we go further, please ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories like this one. She never planned to fall for a stranger, and certainly not one who seemed to have nothing. But life has a way of hiding diamonds in plain sight. Emily arrived in Florence with a backpack, a worn map, and a heart hungry for new experiences. It was her first solo trip, a month-long adventure across Italy. The kind of trip where you sleep in hostels, live on espresso and pastries, and hope the world feels as magical as the guidebooks promised. The hostel she chose was tucked into a narrow alley off Piazza della Signoria. Faded yellow walls, creaky wooden floors, the faint scent of lavender from a diffuser at the front desk. It wasn't glamorous, but it had charm, and more importantly, it fit her budget. That first evening, Emily checked in, climbed 2 flights of stairs, and opened the door to her dorm room. 4 bunks, 2 already occupied, one by a German girl painting her nails, the other by a man sitting cross-legged on the bed near the window, staring out at the dusky skyline. Emily glanced at him briefly. Early 30s, lean frame, dark hair tousled as if he'd just stepped off a motorbike. He wore a faded olive jacket over a plain t-shirt. On the floor beside him, a battered rucksack and a pair of worn hiking boots. He didn't look up. Emily unpacked quietly and slipped out for dinner. By the time she returned, the dorm was dark, the soft sound of someone breathing steady and deep. She figured he was asleep. The next morning, jet lag nudged her awake before dawn. At 6, she padded down to the common kitchen. A few sleepy travelers were already gathered, pouring cereal, buttering toast. And there he was again, the quiet man from her dorm, now seated at the corner table, a chipped mug of black coffee in his hands. The same olive jacket draped across the back of his chair. Emily fixed a small plate and chose a seat nearby. For a moment, she hesitated. Should she say something? The air around him wasn't cold. It was contained, as though he carried a world too heavy to share. But then their eyes met, just briefly, and he gave a polite nod. That was invitation enough. "Good morning," Emily ventured. "Morning," he replied. Voice low. British, perhaps. No smile, but no coldness either. "Been here long?" she asked. "Few days." Another sip of coffee. She tried again. "I just got in last night. This city is incredible." He nodded, as though he'd heard the line many times before. Emily wasn't sure what to make of him. Most backpackers she'd met were eager to swap stories, recommend hidden spots, or at least chat about the day's plans. This man seemed content to exist in his own orbit. She finished her meal in silence. When she glanced back, he was gone. Coffee mug cleared, chair pushed in. Later that morning, Emily joined a free walking tour through the city. The streets buzzed with tourists. She lost herself among marble statues, grand cathedrals, and sun-drenched plazas. Florence lived and breathed history. By late afternoon, her feet ached. She returned to the hostel, hoping for a quiet moment before dinner. And there he was again, this time in the lounge, curled in an armchair, a paperback in his hands. The same old jacket slung across his lap. Emily watched him from the doorway. Around them, a noisy group played cards, laughing over cheap wine. He seemed oblivious. There was something about his stillness. In a space filled with chatter and motion, he remained untouched by it all. She found a spot nearby, pretending to scroll her phone. But her eyes kept drifting back. Was he lonely? Hiding? Or simply someone who preferred solitude? That evening, Emily dined with a group from the hostel. They shared stories over pasta and house wine. Jack, the name she'd later learn, was not among them. But just as she left the table and crossed the dim hallway toward the stairs, she spotted him by the vending machine. "Hey," she called, surprising herself. He turned. "Jack," he said simply, offering a first name without prompting. "Emily." A small smile touched his lips this time. "Progress. Not a fan of group dinners?" she asked. "Crowds aren't my thing." "Fair enough." An awkward pause lingered. "Well, good night, Jack." "Good night, Emily." She climbed the stairs with a flutter of curiosity in her chest. Who was this man who barely spoke, yet occupied her thoughts? Over the next few days, patterns emerged. Jack appeared at odd hours, Early breakfast, late-night reading sessions. Always alone. Always with that same old jacket. Other travelers barely noticed him. The life of the hostel revolved around pub crawls, group tours, and loud communal dinners. Jack drifted outside that orbit, a satellite to their planet. And Emily, despite herself, kept noticing. One morning, fate, or perhaps curiosity, placed them side by side again at breakfast. "You always drink your coffee black?" she asked, settling beside him. "Habit," he said, this time with a flicker of a smile. "Strong choice." A beat passed. "You seem different," she said carefully. Jack's eyes met hers. Different how? Quieter. Not chasing the party. He considered this. Sometimes noise hides things better than silence. "I prefer the latter." Emily felt the weight behind those words but chose not to press. "Fair enough," she replied. They ate in companionable silence after that. Day after day, the pattern continued. Small moments, a shared smile, a casual exchange. Emily found herself drawn in. Not romantically, at least not yet. It was more like a puzzle she couldn't stop trying to solve. Who was Jack, really? At first glance, he seemed like any other budget traveler. Faded clothes, worn backpack, simple meals. The kind of man stretching $1 across Europe. And yet, his eyes spoke of stories untold. His voice carried an undercurrent of something richer, not money but depth. Emily shook off the thought. Surely, she was reading too much into it. After all, he was just another backpacker. Wasn't he? Sometimes, the people who change your life slip in quietly, without fanfare or warning. That's how it was with Jack. Emily hadn't meant to seek him out. Yet, Florence seemed determined to cross their paths. In winding streets, sun-drenched piazzas, shadowed corners of galleries, there he was. Always alone, always observing. At first, it felt like coincidence. Then curiosity. On the third morning, Emily found herself sitting across from him at a small trattoria tucked behind the Uffizi. She hadn't expected to see him there, reading beneath the faded awning, espresso untouched. "Mind if I join?" she asked. He looked up, surprised, then nodded. Conversations started simple. Florence's endless beauty, the charm of hidden courtyards. But it didn't stay simple for long. Jack spoke softly, but with precision. He spoke of art with reverence, of architecture with insight. He quoted poets Emily barely remembered from school. Not to impress, but as if the words lived in him. "You know a lot about this city," Emily said, intrigued. "I read," Jack replied, "and I listen." That line lingered. Later that afternoon, Emily wandered through the Boboli Gardens. Sunlight filtered through ancient trees. Tourists posed beside marble statues. And there, again, Jack. Sketchbook in hand this time, though no pencil moved across the page. "You follow me?" Emily teased. He smiled. "You caught me." For once, he looked less guarded. They walked, not side by side like old friends, more like two travelers who'd stumbled into the same rhythm. Emily found herself talking about her trip, her hometown, her messy life left on pause back home. "My friends think I'm running away," she admitted. "Are you?" Jack asked. "Maybe. My boyfriend of 4 years ended things right before this trip. Said I didn't know what I wanted." Jack didn't offer cliches. "No, you'll be fine." Or his loss. Instead, he listened fully, eyes steady on hers, as though her words deserved space. "Sometimes," Jack said quietly, "getting lost is the only way to find what matters." That struck deeper than she expected. In the days that followed, their unplanned encounters continued. Morning coffee, a chance meeting at a bookshop, a shared bench overlooking the Arno. Each time, the conversation deepened. Emily learned that Jack had traveled often, though he never said why or how. He spoke of places, Iceland's silent glaciers, Morocco's tangled souks, Kyoto's gardens, with a clarity that suggested first-hand experience. "You must have seen half the world," Emily marveled one evening. Jack smiled faintly. "Some corners, the ones that called loud enough." "And Florence." "This city whispers," he replied. "You have to be still enough to hear it." They sat then, watching the river catch the orange glow of sunset. Emily spoke more freely now, about her career confusion, how a promising job had left her hollow, how expectations weighed heavier than she admitted. "I came here hoping to reset," she confessed. Jack nodded. "That's brave." She laughed. "I don't feel brave. I feel lost." "Lost isn't broken," Jack said. "It means you're moving." It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. No judgment, no solutions wrapped in pretty bows. Just space. Understanding. The hostel common room became their evening ritual. While others played drinking games or planned pub crawls, Emily and Jack sat beneath faded travel posters, mugs of tea warming their hands. They spoke of everything: books, music, fears, dreams. One night, Emily asked, "Do you always travel alone?" Jack considered. "Most often." "Why?" "Because sometimes the wrong company is lonelier than no company at all." Emily knew that truth all too well. She noticed things too. How Jack never used the hostel lockers, yet nothing of it seemed valuable. How he often left early, returned late. How he never spoke of home. But she didn't ask. Not yet. One evening, rain pinned them indoors. The common room buzzed with restless energy. Emily spotted Jack at his usual chair and joined him. Without prompting, he said, "You remind me of someone." "Good or bad?" Emily grinned. "Good," Jack answered after a pause. She, too, looked at the world as though it might still surprise her. Did it? He met her gaze. Often. Emily smiled, heart light. This man, wrapped in mystery, had become her favorite part of each day. They never spoke of attraction, not openly. Their connection wove itself through words, shared silences, glances that lingered longer with each passing moment. One morning, Emily arrived in the kitchen later than usual. Jack was there already, brewing coffee. "You're late," he remarked. "You noticed?" Jack hesitated. Of course. Simple words, yet they warmed her more than the coffee ever could. By now, Emily anticipated their moments. The way Jack's brow furrowed over a worn paperback. The rare flashes of humor when he caught her teasing. The calm presence he carried, anchoring her more than she dared admit. Still, questions brewed beneath the surface. Who was he, really? How could someone so thoughtful seem so rootless? Yet, each time curiosity surged, Emily stopped herself. Jack had earned her trust. If answers were meant to come, they would. For now, she cherished the simple, improbable friendship they'd built. One that asked nothing but offered everything: kindness, understanding, quiet companionship. Some endings arrive without warning. It was a gray morning when Jack spoke the words Emily hadn't expected and wasn't ready to hear. They were seated in the corner of the hostel's kitchen, steam curling from mismatched mugs. The usual hum of travelers floated around them, plans for the day, laughter, the clink of dishes. But Emily barely heard any of it. Jack set his coffee down, gazed distant. "I'm leaving tomorrow." The words hung between them, heavy, sharp. Emily blinked. "Leaving? But where?" Jack shook his head lightly. "Somewhere I need to be." No elaboration. No hint of why the sudden decision. She wanted to ask more, wanted to protest. But something in his tone, steady, resigned, held her back. Instead, she forced a smile. "Well, I guess Florence will miss you." Jack's eyes met hers briefly, and in that glance, she caught it. Something unsaid, something deeper than a simple change of plans. The rest of the day unraveled slowly, thick with a quiet tension Emily couldn't shake. Every moment seemed to hum with awareness, as if time itself was counting down. She wandered the streets, camera in hand, yet barely noticed the shots she framed. The city's colors felt muted, the air heavier. By late afternoon, clouds had gathered, soft rain dappling the cobblestones. Emily returned to the hostel, uncertain whether she wanted to see Jack again, or if seeing him would make leaving harder. But he was there, by the stairs, waiting. "Walk with me?" he asked. She nodded. They moved through the city in silence, steps echoing softly beneath old stone arches. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick, reflections shimmering beneath flickering lamps. Emily stole glances at Jack as they walked. He seemed unchanged, calm, composed. Yet there was a tension in his posture, a weight behind his quiet. They reached the Ponte Vecchio, the bridge nearly empty at this hour. Leaning against the worn railing, Jack stared out at the river. "This city," he began, voice low. "It's easy to be someone else here. To disappear, or to be found." Emily frowned softly. "Why do I feel like you're not talking about Florence?" Jack exhaled, a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. "Sometimes people aren't who they appear to be here, but I've enjoyed being just Jack with you." The words landed like a stone in her chest. She opened her mouth, searching for something, anything, that might make him stay. But nothing felt right. Nothing felt enough. Instead, she leaned beside him, shoulder nearly brushing his. "I like you as just Jack." Silence followed. Not awkward, just full. They walked again, slower now. Every block seemed to draw them closer to the inevitable. Emily wanted to ask him to stay, to demand a reason, to say what her heart had been whispering for days. But pride, fear, both held her back. At the hostel door, they stopped. Jack turned to her, eyes steady. "I won't forget this." Emily swallowed. "Me neither." A pause. Then, without words, Jack pulled her gently into an embrace. For a breathless moment, the world stilled. Emily felt the warmth of his jacket, the quiet strength of someone trying to say goodbye without breaking. She closed her eyes, holding tighter than she meant to. Too soon, Jack stepped back. "Good night, Emily." She managed to nod. "Good night." And then he was gone, up the stairs, down the hall. Emily stood there long after, heart thudding, the air colder around her. That night, sleep refused to come. She lay awake, every moment of their walk replaying in her mind. The cryptic words, the embrace, the things left unsaid. Dawn crept in, pale and unwelcome. By the time Emily finally rose, the hostel was stirring. She hurried downstairs, hope flickering. Jack's bed was empty. His bag, his jacket gone. She searched the common room, the kitchen. Nothing. Just like that, he had vanished. Emily stood in the quiet kitchen, mug trembling slightly in her hand. Questions swirled, answers nowhere to be found. Who was he really? Why the sudden departure? What had he meant by those final words? But most of all, why did it feel like something precious had slipped through her fingers before she'd even grasped it? Outside, the city carried on. Tourists bustled. Bells rang. The river flowed steady as ever. Yet for Emily, Florence no longer felt the same. She had come searching for herself. Instead, she had found someone who saw her. And now he was gone. Some moments fracture time. Before, after, and nothing is the same again. For Emily, it happened on a sunlit afternoon in the Tuscan hills. After Jack's sudden departure, the days that followed had blurred together. She'd left Florence sooner than planned, unable to shake the hollow feeling that clung to every familiar corner. The city that once felt alive now whispered of absence. She booked a room in a nearby town, Montepulciano, a place of quiet streets, terraced vineyards, and skies that seemed impossibly wide. She told herself it was for a change of pace, a fresh view. But beneath it, she knew, she was trying to outrun the ache Jack had left behind. The days passed slowly, mornings with coffee on the balcony, afternoons wandering cobbled lanes, evenings spent staring at unread pages in half-lit cafes. Yet Jack lingered, in every glance at an empty chair, in the words she didn't say aloud. Then came the day that split her world in two. It began simply enough, a local festival in the town square. Stalls bursting with olives and cheeses, laughter rising beneath bright flags. Emily wandered through the crowd, camera swinging from her shoulder, trying to feel present. Children chased one another between the market stalls. A brass band tuned their instruments near the fountain. The air smelled of rosemary and roasted chestnuts. For a moment, she almost felt light again. Then, a low rumble. At first, Emily thought it was thunder, but the sky was a flawless blue. The sound grew louder. Heads turned. Voices hushed. Above the vineyard beyond the square, a sleek helicopter appeared, slicing through the air. Shimmering black, its polished frame caught the sun as it hovered, then descended toward the open field beyond the town walls. Emily stood frozen, heart pounding. Helicopters were rare here. Spectacle even rarer. The crowd surged toward the stone archway leading to the field. Emily found herself swept along, curiosity overriding hesitation. They gathered along the old stone wall overlooking the landing site. Dust billowed as the rotors slowed. Conversations buzzed in a dozen languages. Who could it be? The door opened, and out stepped Jack. No olive jacket, no worn boots, no battered rucksack. Instead, an impeccably tailored suit, crisp white shirt, dark sunglasses shielding his eyes. Confidence radiated from his posture, each step measured, assured. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Cameras lifted. Phones clicked. Emily stared, breath caught mid-thought. It couldn't be, but it was Jack. And yet, not Jack. She gripped the edge of the wall, knuckles white. Jack removed his sunglasses, scanning the crowd. His gaze found her. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed. Just him, just her. Then he smiled. Not the shy smile of the man from the hostel kitchen. Not the guarded curve of lips beneath a rain-soaked bridge. This was different. Open. Certain. Before she could process it, Jack moved through the crowd, security trailing discreetly behind. The sea of people parted around him as though they sensed something extraordinary had just unfolded. Emily remained rooted, unable to move. He stopped a few feet away. "Hello, Emily." The voice familiar. Steady. Real. But everything else seemed impossibly changed. She faltered, words tangled in her throat. Jack's expression softened. "I owe you an explanation." Behind him, the helicopter loomed, a silent testament to the life he'd kept hidden. "I'm Jack Worthington," he said quietly. "I'm not just the backpacker you met." Emily blinked, struggling to match the pieces. Worthington. The name echoed faintly. Associated with a European conglomerate, whispered among headlines she'd skimmed and forgotten. "I needed to be someone else for a while," Jack continued. "Someone ordinary. Someone without expectation or agenda." The crowd's hum faded beneath the weight of his words. "I didn't plan to meet you," he said. "And when I did, I didn't plan to care this much." Emily's heart hammered. Her world tilted. "You left," she whispered, voice thin. "I had to," Jack replied. "My time was borrowed. I couldn't explain without risking it becoming different between us." Tears pricked her eyes, frustration, relief, disbelief tangled together. "And now," Jack took a breath. "Now, I choose honesty." He stepped closer, gaze unwavering. "I missed you." Simple words, yet they shattered the dam inside her. Emily laughed, a choked sound edged with emotion. "You're impossible." Jack smiled. "So I've been told." For a long moment, they stood amidst the watching crowd, two lives colliding beneath a Tuscan sky. Finally, Emily found her voice. "Why now? Why here?" Jack's eyes softened. "Because I couldn't leave it unfinished. And because I didn't want you thinking it was all pretend." Emily swallowed hard. "It wasn't pretend," she whispered. Jack reached gently for her hand. "Good," he said softly. "Because neither was this." Around them, the crowd began to drift, sensing the moment wasn't theirs to claim. The helicopter waited, its presence a silent reminder of the world Jack came from. But in that moment, beneath the vast sky and crumbling stone, none of it mattered. Just Jack, just Emily, and a chance rewritten. Some moments rewrite the story of your life. 1 second you are who you've always been, ordinary, unsure. The next, everything changes. For Emily, it happened beneath an open sky, in front of more witnesses than she ever imagined. The crowd from the festival hadn't fully dispersed. News traveled fast in small towns, faster still when it involved a private helicopter and the air of a European empire. By the time Emily and Jack stepped back into the square, the space buzzed with whispers and wide-eyed stares. Her hostile friends had arrived, drawn by the spectacle. Familiar faces, smiling stunned. Emily barely noticed them. The world seemed narrowed to the man beside her. Jack Worthington, the man who had once been just Jack, sitting across from her over cheap hostel coffee. Now, he walked through the crowd with purpose, her hand still in his. He stopped beneath the balcony of a small stone cafe. The music from the festival faded, as if the town itself held its breath. Jack turned to her, eyes steady. "I owe you more than an explanation," he said softly. Emily's heart raced. She shook her head, overwhelmed. Jack, you don't have to. He raised a hand gently. Please, let me say this. His voice carried, drawing in every ear around them. For a long time, Jack began, I lived behind a wall of wealth, surrounded by people who saw only my name, my money. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I tried to disappear, he continued, to find a place where I wasn't defined by it, where I could just be. He glanced at Emily, voice tightening. And then I met you. A hush. The crowd leaned in. You spoke to me like I mattered, not for who I was on paper, but for who I was here. He tapped his chest lightly. Emily's eyes stung. Her breath caught. You listened, Jack said. You cared. And in a world of masks, you saw the person underneath. His gaze searched hers, unguarded. I left because I feared what it meant to be honest. I came back because I realized honesty is the only thing that matters. He reached into his pocket. Not a velvet box, not a grand display, just a simple band of white gold, brushed, understated, beautiful in its quiet way. Jack sank to one knee. A collective gasp rose around them. Phones clicked, eyes brimmed, but Emily saw only him. The man beneath the suit, beneath the name, just Jack. Jack's voice was steady, though his eyes shimmered. Emily, I offer you this ring, not because I'm rich, but because I'm real with you. The world seemed to tilt. Tears blurred her vision. Jack smiled softly. I can't promise perfection. I can't promise ease. But I promise truth. Always. Emily pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Words failed her. Only one remained. Yes, she whispered, voice breaking. Yes. A cheer erupted. Applause rippled through the square, echoing off stone walls. Hostile friends rushed forward, laughing, hugging, snapping photos through tears. Jack stood, sliding the ring gently onto her finger. Their hands clasped, grounding them amid the storm of joy. For a moment, they simply held each other, the world fading around them. Then another sound. The helicopter's blades began to spin once more, cutting the air in steady rhythm. Jack leaned in. Come with me, he whispered. Emily stared at him. At the man she'd once known as a quiet stranger in a faded jacket. At the man she now trusted with her heart. She nodded. Hand in hand, they moved through the crowd, laughter and cheers chasing their steps. At the helicopter, Jack helped her in first. The interior gleamed, polished yet warm. A world apart from hostel bunks and chip coffee mugs. As the rotors lifted them into the sky, Emily glanced down. The square was a sea of waving hands, smiling faces. Her old life, still there, yet already feeling distant. Beside her, Jack clasped her hand. I never wanted to be rescued, Emily said softly. Jack smiled. You weren't. You were seen. Tears slipped free, of joy, of release, of the weight she hadn't known she carried. Below them, the vineyards unfurled like a painted dream. The sun kissed the horizon in molten gold. Jack turned to her, eyes full. Where to now? He asked. Emily laughed through tears. Anywhere. The helicopter soared higher. In that moment, surrounded by clouds and possibility, Emily knew life had changed. Not because she'd found a wealthy man, not because of the ring, but because she'd been brave enough to see someone for who they truly were. And because someone had done the same for her. If you enjoyed this story, ensure to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing, heartfelt stories like this. Also, let us know where you are watching from and drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think about Emily and Jack's incredible journey. Did Jack's true identity surprise you? What would you have done in Emily's shoes? Share your favorite moment from their story below. And remember, your support helps us bring you even more inspiring tales. Until next time, keep believing in life's beautiful surprises. See you in the next video.